So the question I wanted to ask you guys was, what do you look for in an adventure book? Like, what sort of things are exciting to you? What sort of things do you want to try and avoid? And yeah, let's start off with Fred. What do you think?
Well, I'm somewhat lazy. I also have a lack of time, as I've kind of mentioned in the past, and so I'm looking for very specific adventures. Most of the time, it's not Wizards of the Coast because they just don't make anything that I particularly like. Sorry, people, but it's just true. Um, so
Understandable.
I like a collection of short adventures with a good map. It doesn't have to be coloured, but a decent map that I can understand. And I'm looking for probably between 1 and 4 pages, something that I can prepare in the space of 5 to 30 minutes if necessary. I don't have to sit there and read for hours on end or even for an hour because I probably won't have time. I like the idea of them including in an adventure because I feel like Dungeons and Dragons is really stories about monsters and the characters interacting with those monsters, whether they kill them or they give them a massage or buy them chocolates and flowers. I don't know. It's up to you. But I want unique and interesting monsters in those adventures, and I'm looking for a range of problem solving. So whatever they give me, I'd like the idea that there's something that they can do other than just killing them. If we can have something that's like that, that's good in the adventure. And then I like a very short hook, and often a single line is enough for me. And if they give me more than one, like 3 is a good number because that sort of gives you something to play with. If they're a bit varied, so you can fit it into your own campaign. And then a conclusion, sort of what you would might happen at the end of this adventure, which might be very location focused. And I like it to be kept simple. I'm happy with it to be a skeleton because I will homebrew and build in my own stuff anyway. And for those of you who are thinking those adventure books don't exist, I can assure you that Kobold Press makes a whole bunch of them, and I have bought quite a few of them. Okay, and if Wizards of the Coast get their act together and start making that thing, then I will buy those.
What do you think of things like Tales from the Yawning Portal or I think it was Candlekeep, where they had like 20 independent, more modular stories?
I think it's better, but they're still too long. They're still too complicated. When you look at those adventures, they actually still require somebody to break them apart for you to explain how to run them, because there's quite a lot going on. Most of those adventures in the Candlekeep one, they're missing adventure hooks, or the adventure hooks are so poor, or they're exactly the same adventure hook. So you're like, well, I can't replay the same adventure hook every single time. It kind of gets a bit dull. So, and then the other one, the Yawning Portal and Salt Marsh books, those are rehashes of older adventures, which is fine, but some of those adventures are still quite long. Even the shortest ones are like 11 pages to 15 pages. So that's still quite a bit of investment time. And I'm often looking for, all I really want is enough to get through my one session of 3 hours. That's all I need. I don't need anything more. I don't want to have to prep an entire location that takes me 3 or 4 hours to actually get going. So short is better for me.
Yeah. Well, I think if like what you're trying to say is there's like 3 to 5 skeleton of an idea is enough for one session. But I think some people they prefer having like a whole overarching session where everything's explained to them, whether you're going from level 1 to 10 or like a long variety of levels. And I think it's about finding your own niche, finding what you're comfortable with. Because if someone's not good at improvising, if they want to stick by the book, then they should stick with the Wizards of the Coast products. But like you said, was it Kobold Press? What was the name of the books?
Prepared 2, there's the Book of Lairs, they're about 4 pages long. And really, I mean, the overarching story, I'll do that. That's my problem. And my players will help build that. I'll
Yeah.
present a few things. And I like the idea of building my campaign from Lego bricks. And if there's a brick that doesn't fit, then I'll build that completely myself.
So, what about you, Aviad? What are you looking for in a good adventure book?
Well, I'm a sucker for good maps and handouts, so if you have those, I'll automatically like the adventure more. Uh, but for me, I want to read like the introduction or the early part and get inspired. If I see like this adventure with cool location and an interesting story, I'd read the rest, even if it's 10 or 20 or 30 pages. I'd go into it. Maybe not even to run the entire thing, just to get ideas and break it down, so I can take that essence and put it in my game, similar to what Fred mentioned. Also, a big thing that I'm interested in personally is moral dilemmas. Whenever I can put my players in like an uncomfortable moral dilemma situations where they have to choose, I just love seeing them, talk about it and argue about it and figure out the right solution for them. So that's something that I'm extra interested in. And also any adventure that has really quirky NPCs, I love, because I love acting the weird kobold or hag or I don't know, weird creatures that I don't get to play every game.
A flump.
A flump, absolutely. I love flumps.
I think flumps have always been like a mystery to me. I have no idea how you would play one. It just seems so obtuse,
Farting noises.
Holy crap.
Yeah, but they'll
right.
like do it on the other direction because they're nice. They won't fart in your face.
Oh, right.
They'll fart the other one.
Yeah,
You're right.
just a lingering odor.
Well, I suppose
Anyway.
it's better.
But Falk, what sort of things would you look for in an adventure book?
Well, a perfect adventure book for me is a book that saves time instead of wasting your time. Because, I mean, a really bad book that wastes your time is the reason that I started Lucid Dice channel. So it's not necessarily a bad thing for me because I get to it gives me a content to work with. But yeah, I mean, it's like signing up for a campaign, for a published campaign, and then realizing that you still have to come up with so many stuff to make it work is a bummer. So having run a couple of adventures, like from Wizards of the Coast, I found that the most things that I value are a book that provides tools for its setting. For example, Out of the Abyss has a bunch of stuff that you can just grab it and run an Underdark adventure of your own. You can just throw away the plot and still play with all the locations. It has several cities that you can just run separately. Like, okay, here's a city. It has a bunch of problems, a bunch of NPCs, locations, and go play with it. It also has new setting-related magic items, monsters, and stuff like that. I have a couple of adventures like Storm King's Thunder. I've never run it. I don't even know what it's about. But it has a bunch of described locations, like the north. It has a whole section of the north. And I picked it up and I designed entire one-shots based on those paragraphs. So I think that's a good adventure module. You get it, but you don't necessarily have to run it. You can just tear it apart and use it. I don't think I would be able to use Tyranny of Dragons like that. Maybe just for the maps, because it's just a screenplay. It doesn't have it's a story about dragons, but it doesn't even have dragon lore, So that's a bad book for me. And something like Curse of Strahd or Out of the Abyss is way better. Like their Out of the Abyss story, for example, is not as good, but it's vague enough that you can more easily fix.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea of Lego blocks. Fred mentioned it earlier. If you're able to get like a good NPC, a good magic item, a good map, then you can use that in your own game. Because with a lot of the published content, I found that as a DM, I'd read it from start to finish. I'd enjoy it. It's almost like reading the whole adventure. is you going on the adventure. But when you start playing the game, the more you play with people, the more it goes off the rails, I find. And
Yeah.
even if you take something simple as, what was it? What's the starter site? Lost Mines of Phandelver? Yeah, like starting out, it sounds very generic. You're going through the motions, but then as soon as you get to the town, one person says, "Oh, I want to go to Waterdeep. What's that all about?" And then one person says, "Oh, we should go and talk to this guy." And I think giving the DM tools to tell their own story or to facilitate the player's story is probably what you're looking for. So if you're going for a very on the rails scripted sort of game or scripted sort of adventure book, then it's good, but it's not fantastic. I'd prefer to have chess pieces and be able to play my own game, so to speak.
So the perfect adventure book is actually a setting book.
There you go. That's absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, Rich.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd like to point out that Eviard's point is actually very, very true. And there is a setting book that Wizards of the Coast put out that is probably, I think, one of the best setting books that I've seen 5th edition put out. And that is Mythic Odysseys of Theros. And the reason it's so good is not that they've put an index in it, because the index is inadequate, but they did put an index in it. It's just not the things you need. What they've done is they've broken it up into the player character stuff that you might use, but they've also given you all of the information you need about the gods. And the gods are really the story. The gods and the monsters are what make this world work, because it's all based on Greek mythology. But what they also did is each god has a location that's associated with them. And in that source book, associated with every god, you get a map, you get some adventure hooks and ideas, you get some villains, you get some potential monsters that might reside in this location, and you get sort of a rough rundown of kind of what that the place is like, some descriptive stuff. Not necessarily paragraphed or box text, but enough to be able to form your own adventure around that location. And I actually think it is probably vastly better than anything I've seen Wizards of the Coast put out for 5th edition. And if they keep doing adventure books like that aren't actually adventure books, because they provide you with like a very short adventure, but it's a source book with a whole lot of locations with maps and the basic pieces that you put into it, I think that's just brilliant.
I like the combination of both, like having the setting and then like a few examples of very short adventures that you can take the building blocks and create from, just so you can see the power of what they have presented. So when I don't know if Theros has a built-in like adventure in it. I haven't read it in its entirety. Yeah, Fred.
It's got one. It's got one. Matthew Mercer put 4 in his. 4 of them, and they're all very different.
That's great.
But I think the thing is, he put so much stuff in. Their book is huge. There is a significant lack of maps to sort of help the dungeon master get things done.
So, well, I think if you're familiar with video games, it's the difference between a Telltale game where you're following a narrative, you have options, and they play heavily into what happens in the game, versus Minecraft, where you've just been given an open sandbox and you're told, make your own story, do what you want. And these are the two extremes, and I'm sure you can figure out the analogs with D&D, but I think finding a good middle ground would be the best way I would expect a good adventure book to be presented. So what do you guys think about I don't know if you've had a chance to read the new Strixhaven book, because I've heard a lot of criticism from it because it's a very short adventure, but they focus on some ideas like a dating simulator sort of thing, or they're doing big time jumps between each part of the story, and it's been a lot of mixed opinions about that. Have you had a chance to check it out?
I haven't got the book, and I have no intentions of buying it at full price. And to be fair, I haven't seen the book, and it's not It's not because it's poorly written that I'm not really interested in, but I'm 50 years old and I have no desire to relive going back to school. I don't care if it's magic school, I don't care if it's Harry Potter's school, I don't care, but I don't want to go and relive that, even in a magical setting. So for me, it's just the wrong topic. It's the wrong kind of adventure.
Unfortunately, I haven't read it either. Just didn't get it.
Yeah. What about you, folk?
Even though I play Magic the Gathering, I was so not interested in this book. When they put it out, I'm like, meh, I don't know. Yeah, I have.
Well,
I don't know anything about it. Sorry.
That's a unanimous no from us then. But I do think that with the pre-written Wizards of the Coast supplements books, adventure books, that it's not everyone's going to align with each person. You're always going to have a broad spectrum of different stories people want to tell, and that's the strength of D&D, is the flexibility. You're able to tell an epic adventure or interact with a monster, or you can, if you just go on a dating simulator, or you want to try and have a more steampunky setting or a more futuristic setting. The rules are there to facilitate your storytelling. And that's something you won't get in a video game because it's scripted to a certain extent. So I think that with adventures, you have some strong points and weak points, but generally speaking, like Aviad said, the setting books are the best adventure books. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up. And so, guys, where can we see you? Fred, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube like everybody else. I'm at the channel How to D&D. My name's Fred Wheeler. You'll find me on Twitter and Facebook.
And check out his live stream painting as well. So, Aviad, where can we find you?
You can find me at my YouTube channel, Beyond the Screen.
And Folk?
You can find me on Lutz and Dice YouTube channel and a bunch of social media websites. All the links can be found on my channel page.
There you go. Is it all with the ampersand, Lutz, ampersand, dice, or do you have and in some of the things?
No, it's an ampersand.
Hey, perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. It's been a fantastic chat. And yeah, can't wait for the next session. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.